Mr. Speaker, I'm so pleased to be here, to have the opportunity to rise on behalf of the citizens of Winnipeg South Centre and speak to my colleagues here in the House of Commons about the Economic Action Plan 2013. As a chartered accountant, I am very proud to be part of a government that gives Canadians sound fiscal planning, job creation, and economic growth. As a mother, I am very grateful for the government's direction on long-term prosperity because we must always be mindful of how our spending affects future generations. We need to be responsible and make sure that our children start their life without their futures mortgaged because of irresponsible tax and spend government. We have to make sure that we do the best job possible for our children. It matters for their future. Our government is acting to ensure that our children enjoy a prosperous future in Canada. On October 22nd, the Honourable Minister of Finance tabled the Economic Action Plan, Part 2, Bill C-4. This bill provides support for job creators. It respects taxpayers' dollars, and it closes tax loopholes to combat tax evasion and make it fair so that when you're paying your fair share of taxes, you know somebody else also is doing the same. We made promises to Canadians to follow through, and we are acting on those promises. The ability to make sure that we are delivering for Canadians, not dithering and talking about it, we're delivering for Canadians today. The Economic Action Plan of March 13, and I really would like to just recap a few things regarding the economy, the job creation, and particularly the tax cutting that we have already done for Canadians. Because really our budget laid the groundwork to reduce taxes for hardworking families, to reduce taxes for hardworking businesses that are creating jobs for hardworking families, and to lay the groundwork for long-term prosperity. We all know, and we've certainly seen it daily in the papers, that by implementing Canada's Economic Action Plan, Canada has experienced one of the best economic performances among the G7 countries, both during the global recession and throughout the recovery. Canada has the lowest overall tax rate on new business investment in the G7, and our net debt to GDP ratio remains the lowest in the G7 by far at 34.6%. And Mr. President, Monsieur le Président, je m'excuse, I just want to make sure people realize what an accomplishment that debt to GDP ratio is, because, you know, our closest, we're at 34.6, and our closest colleague is Germany at 57.2. In fact, the average in the G7 is well over 90% net debt to GDP ratio. So Canadians can and should be extremely proud of the efforts that this government has made to put us on a firm fiscal framework. We, at the same time, Mr. Speaker, we do not presume that we're out of the woods yet. We know the economy remains fragile. C'est une économie très fragile au mondial, and we're taking actions to make sure that we are well protected. That's why we have created jobs. I mean, we've created more than 1 million net new jobs. The vast majority, since the depths of the global recession in July 2009, and in fact, you know, virtually, the vast majority of those jobs are full-time, and the vast majority of those jobs are in the private sector. The unemployment rate is at its lowest level since 2008, and it is significantly lower than the United States. We have extended the Enabling Accessibility Fund by providing $15 million a year in perpetuity. It's permanent funding to support community projects that improve accessibility, removing barriers and allowing Canadians with disabilities to participate fully and contribute to their communities. As well, Economic Action Plan 2013 delivers a new Building Canada plan that will provide over $53 billion in predictable infrastructure funding. That's the largest and the longest federal investment in job creating infrastructure in all of Canadian history. We've introduced the accelerated capital cost allowance for new manufacturing, machinery and equipment by increasing support to manufacturers. And just 2 years of the extension puts $1.4 billion in the pockets of job creators, businesses who are making those important investments to get Canada working. We've improved the aerospace. We've added $1 billion to Strategic Aerospace and Defense Initiative. And as a member of the Aerospace Caucus, I feel it's very, very important to underline that there are 40 businesses with over 5,500 employees working in Manitoba who will benefit tremendously from those investments. Cutting taxes, it's what we do. We have colleagues in the NDP and Liberal who want to increase taxes. Our Conservative government believes in low taxes and leaving more money where it belongs, in the pockets of hardworking Canadian families and job-creating businesses. As a Manitoban, as a proud Manitoban, I have never encountered an individual who wanted to pay more taxes. And recently, we've seen the anger of people who would much rather have $1 in their pockets to spend on their children than adding 1% to the PST in the province. Indeed, so we're not just talking about cutting taxes, we're actually doing it. Since 2006, we have cut taxes 160 times, reducing the overall tax burden to its lowest in 50 years. And in fact, that tax reduction work has put $3,200 on average more in the household account, in the personal income of a family, an average family of 4. And as a mother of an average family of 4, I'm very, very grateful. Parents know how to spend the money. Moms know how to spend the money. We're a government that is reducing the tax cost to all families and making sure that families have more money. We've done that by increasing the amount of Canadians the amount that Canadians can earn without paying any tax. We've reduced the lowest personal income tax rate to 15%. We've introduced pension income splitting for seniors, and we've introduced tax-free savings accounts. That's the biggest tax-free saving or personal saving vehicle for Canadians since the introduction of an RRSP. We have cut the GST. And, just on this point, one of our colleagues, the honourable member from Markham Unionville, I saw an interesting quote that he had made on raising the GST. And the citation begins, the quote, "It's an option. All I can say is that it is consistent with our approach." Well, that's a tax option and an approach that is consistent with the Liberal approach. The Conservative government lowers taxes. Of course, we have just signed, we're so proud the Prime Minister signed the CETA agreement. That's going to make an enormous difference. And that's another accomplishment that puts more than $1,000 on average in the average taxpayer's income. I just want to close by saying not only will the agreement contribute to our significant well-being economically, we're a government that is very committed to ensuring that we are focused on job creation, on economic growth, and on long-term prosperity. And when we say long-term prosperity, it's not just for our generation, it's for all of the generations to come. Our government is absolutely focused on this expenditure. We're doing with Bill C-4, we're making the right choices, we're making the hard choices, but we're being responsible and ensuring that we will have a firm framework for all Canadians in the future. Je vous remercie. Thank you.
Questions and comments, the honourable member for Les Alémars. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, the government is being negligent when it tabled its budget, because in the last budget it had made a huge mistake, which doubled the taxation rate for credit unions and savings unions, and that was denounced by the NDP in the summer. Now, buried in this mammoth bill, there's another huge mistake. Now, as I am the spokesperson for cooperatives, so why didn't the government take advantage of this to put in place a program for an initiative for cooperatives?
Or Winnipeg South Centre.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the question. This is a very important question, and I would like to commend my colleague, the member, for her work as a member of our Aerospace Caucus. And unlike the NDP and the Liberals, who want to tax and spend, our Conservative government believes in reducing the tax burden and in leaving the money where it should be, in Canadian taxpayers' pockets, because they work hard and not only tax-paying families, but job creators as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? Honourable member for York West.
My honourable colleague on her comments. I certainly don't agree with them, but she's certainly using all of the proper words that her government wants her to use when it comes to cutting taxes, cutting taxes, cutting taxes. Well, I think part of the government's job is to invest in Canadians and invest in the country. And just to point out a few things, clearly is out of touch with middle-class families who are struggling to, one, find childcare. We recently had a report out there from, I think it was Martha Friendly, who's an expert in the whole issues of childcare, and was talking about the $17.5 billion the government has spent investing and in families, as they call it, but there have been no childcare places provided for that. Second issue is the fact that we have 25% unemployment in our young people, and we've got between 200,000 and 300,000 unpaid internships, which is the only jobs that many of our young people can find and the only way that they can get a foot in the door. So how can you be so proud to stand there and say you're cutting taxes when your job as a government is to make sure you are investing in people and providing opportunities?
Before I go to the member, again, I'd like to remind all honourable members to direct their comments and questions to the chair rather than to their colleagues. Honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for her questions, albeit misguided ones, because I firmly believe, as a mother of a family, I have a 15-year-old now, and a 22-year-old. I haven't seen many families who think they'd rather take $3,200 and hand it to the government rather than spend it on their children, on their family, on their children's education, on their children's future. And so, as a member of a government that has given $3,200 to every family, put in their pocket for them to make decisions on how they choose to invest for their children. I know we're very happy in investing in the education of our children. I know a lot of families feel the same. So who better to be able to invest? Furthermore, we are, with Bill C-4, we are modernizing the student loans, Canada Students Loan Program. We are very proud to be a part of such an essential part of enabling children to continue with their education as they become young adults. And that is what we're about, making sure that we're giving the money to the people who can use it for their families. Thank you, Monsieur le Président.
Resuming debate.